Okay, good morning. We're holding now Ois Dalit. So the last thing we said is that based on the Tzemach Tzedek's beer of Matam Pasach Bereishis, why does the Torah start with Bereishis? The question is stronger since Kibush is lower than Torah mitzvahs. So yes, you're right that it says in the Torah, in order to understand the avodah of how we answer by saying listim. But why is the first thing the Torah speaks about is the reason why the Torah starts with Bereishis is to answer the Taina of the Goyim. Why would that be the first thing? Okay, so now the Rebbe says in Dalid, let's say, Einer from the Biyurim was men ken zagen in them. So one of the explanations that can be given, Afal Pi as Avodas HaKibush, even though the Avodah of conquering, the Avodah of conquest, the B'lashon Chassidus, Avodas HaBirurim, and like the Chassidus uses the expression, the Avodah of Birurim, is in Seder HaMadregas. So this is in the level of Madregas. In other words, when it comes to the lower level, so then they're lower than the study of Torah and the fulfillment of mitzvahs from that aspect. So even though when it comes to kibush, kibush is lower than Torah mitzvahs. However, from that aspect, nevertheless, is the kavana halyenev b'riyas ha'elam nesara kadosh baruch hu liyasli diri b'tachtenim. Hashem wanted that there should be a dwelling place down into this world. It was meant to be. The Alter Rebbe typed this up. What is like the Alter Rebbe says? What does it mean? Hashem wanted a dwelling place b'tachtenim. So like the Alter Rebbe says, he wanted a very low place which is the lowest of all. And when a person does the Avodas HaBirurim properly, so it's a lot deeper and a lot higher in a way than Limud HaTorah came, or I should say it's deeper than Limud HaTorah and Kiyam Mitzvahs. He says, "Durch ihren wird adir leisbarach euch in the Divrei HaReshus shel Adam was added to Mamash." Why? Because what happens is this makes a dira also in a person's discretionary matters, which are really the lowest. The Rebbe says in the brackets, is da an ilay in the avodah b'nefesh adam. Similarly, a person's neshama or a person's soul also benefits from the avodah of birurim. As by avodah birurim, dafür bei sich ois areis führen tifere koichas hanefesh v'balim l'ateri v'kiyam mitzvahs. Because to carry out the avodah birurim, a person has to tap into deeper powers of his neshama than are needed for Torah and mitzvahs. Kedei zu uftan as oich when me gefindt sich in die Dalet Ames für Kedusha. Again, kedei zu uftan as oich when me gefindt sich nicht in die Dalet Ames für Kedusha, nor men vernimmt sich mit welten Jannen, because when we're not in shul or we're not in the Dalet Ames für Kedusha, and we have to be involved in worldly matters, so man oich dann bleiben zugebunden zu Kedusha, which is still remain connected to Kedusha. This as allen Janne harashus verin getan nor l'shem shemayim, until that everything, even the mundane things, should be done l'shem shemayim, or the nochecher, or even higher, bechol d'checha de EU. Darf men zayin bepashtus frimer. So we have to be frimer. And was onkommen zu a starke iskashus and Hashem mit den Ebersten. We have to come to a higher bound with the Eberster. Was soll nicht abschwachen werden euch based in isaskus mit den Jana Elam, that we should not be weak. Shouldn't be weak when we're involved in worldly matters. Now, das is the time as possible Bereishis, and this is also why the Torah opens with Bereishis. While shleimus ikar betachas hakavana from bria dire betachtenim shein tach lamat meno fehlt sich durch der avodas from Bereishis bara. So, what is the reason why the Torah starts with Bereishis? Is because the ultimate goal of creation is to have a tachtin in the lower worlds, with which there's nothing lower than that, and this goal is accomplished through the Avodah Bereishis, which is the Avodah of Birurim. Avi, no? Yeah, I'm calling on the phone. Okay, hey. So So he says like this: the Rebbe says the beer is obenit maspik. Now, the above explanation, however, is still not enough. Why? Because if you look at the sequence at the continuation, what does it say? What's the reason that Hashem opened with Bereishis? Why? Because if the goyim are going to say something, they're going to taina as mochach. So what do we see from here? As pasach Bereishis derfar vaslulei zeh afilu Bereishis with geshtan shpeten teiro. In other words, if the we were saying yesterday, and the Rebbe is saying this again, is that if Bereishis would have said in the middle of the Torah, the history of Bereishis, it wouldn't be enough. It had to be dafka in the beginning. What? In order to answer this taina. Well, noch geblieben an Ort, if taina sumus as listamaten, can also follow. So we would still have this question. There would still be room for the allegation that the nations could say that we're bandits. Now, but based on what we said before, it comes out as a tamas pasach of Bereishis. It's not created to shelo zayn die taina von listamaten, or blois zu maten gezayn die meile von avodas habirunim Bereishis bara. The Gabe der Meile von Avodas HaTorah, Mr. Sachilish. So based on what was explained before, it comes out that the reason why Hashem opened with Bereishis was not to negate the claim that we're bandits, but only to prioritize and emphasize this virtue of the Avodah of Birurim over the Avodah of Torah Mitzvahs. The Rebbe says, now, this will be clarified based on the well-known thought that when it comes to worldly matters, so worldly matters falls into two different categories. Aleph, you have divya hadashus, you have permissible matters. Was there kibush bidders durch the avodah von kol maasech l'shem shemayim l'chol dechecha de'eyu unkamuv limidat became mitzvah. So the first thing is when it comes to permissible matters, so which is what's the conquest and beer of these things? They're accomplished by the avodah of all your actions shall be for the sake of heaven, and know him in all your ways, and also obviously by learning Torah and fulfilling mitzvah. So that's the first. That's the first thing. So how do you, when it comes to dividend and shus, how do you kavish it? So first of all, you have to make sure that all your avodah is done for the right reasons, and kumuvin through Torah and mitzvah. So that's the first one. Base. The second thing is you have. Then you have forbidden matters, which the vitality comes from shalosh klippos atmeis that contains absolutely no good. And even when it comes to shalosh klippos atmeis, they also have a spark of kedusha which brings them into existence and gives them life. Everything that exists comes from holiness. Nor the erakdusha from the nitzutzes is in zei tachas halam. However, the holy light of these sparks is concealed, and they cannot be refined and elevated to holiness. Therefore, that's what the kedusha. That's why they're forbidden. Azay as nor zelten nit al der charev was. In Teda, medaberes in his bar, the little berev b'shishim. The day is nasik gezachis. Durch shuva ma'avu ketzim adar charego. They can nit his bar vern on ilu zane kedusha and the fire zane zay the one of master. So either because only rarely, not in the majority of cases, as we know, the Torah speaks of the majority. Can these forbidden things have a bearer, let's say through the nullification of Bata B'Shishim, or in cases of, let's say, intentional sins becomes like marriage through tshuva, out of love, so then sometimes you can be mizbar then. But usually when it comes to Shalosh Klippos Atmeis, it's impossible to be mivar. So on this basis we could say, as ikr taina for listematim beruchnis has been again these zachen. So when the goyim and they say that we are bandits, the accusations is primarily concerns these shalosh klippos atmeis. B'shaychas suzeh hati taina and artapitera, and it's possible for a yid regarding these things. There's room that the Torah such a claim could exist. Why? Warum a yid was sein hanog is apitera is nicht shayach zum bitter from the varam asurim darf sein Shomeran, Yoni Isse, darf man Deicha sein. Das heißt, als Apiteide sein, sie Kielu, wie nicht in the Schuss von Aiden, nor Rishus HaKlippa. So it comes out that in regards to Sholosh HaKlippas HaTmeis, and it's impossible for a Yid to refine them. He has to turn from evil and push away forbidden things. So according to Torah, such entities are not within the Rishus of a Yid to be involved in the Rishus HaKlippa. Now, so that's the Taina. The Taina is of the Klippa is saying, the Umas Elim is saying that when it comes to Sholosh Klippas HaTmeis, you have no right to be mevar. The Rebbe and Bereishis will gestanden nor noch HaChedesh or noch mer liikuva. So therefore, had Bereishis been recorded in the Torah after HaChedesh, and moreover, Rashi says he's using the wording that excludes the liikuva, like an alternative. As what does Rashi say? The Torah did not have to start. Not like the Medrash says that the Torah shouldn't have written it at all. The Torah shouldn't have started it only from HaChedesh. So Torah atzmei fordert sich as haschala soll sein von HaChedesh, which means the mitzad Torah itself, the Torah demands that it should begin from HaChedesh. Which means as es wollt gewend der Eufen Avedas HaKibush v'Birurim nor idei limud Torah v'kimei mitzvos. What does that mean? That the way to conduct the Avodah of Birurim is only through Torah and mitzvos. Wollt kavashtem art Shivas HaGayim was es kol der Birur for the Yitzutza should be able to Mestatmeir is given Gezela. So, which means that if this was true, then the allegations of the nations that you conquered the lands of the 7 nations, which includes refining the sparks of Sholosh Klippas HaTmeis, would be validated, and this conquest would be a robbery. So that's the Taina. The Taina is that the way that the Torah is set up, and the way that the Eibusher set things up, that if the Avodah of Kibush and Birurim is only through Torah and mitzvahs, so then it will come out that by getting involved in the Sholosh Klippas HaTmeis, we're like stealing, because it's not our Avodah. Okay, Vav. So how do we answer this? How do we refute this? So this claim is refuted by the Torah having opened with Bereishis. Now, even though from the perspective of Torah, Sholosh Klippas HaTmeis, the sparks within forbidden objects, cannot undergo birur, is aber mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Halin Shalamaylam Ad Torah, gegeben geworden, der Koyach of Tshuva was Tshuva Ma'ava tut uftis denis overn Zachias. Now, when it comes to the perspective of Hashem, who's loftier than Torah, since a person is given the wherewithal to do tshuva, and with tshuva ma'ava, the person can transform his intentional sins into merit. Kamayim Chazal is dafke Shalach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chayte Anshe Amalahem Yasser Tshuva Yiskapele, and this is what Chazal say, that specifically when the Eibusher was asked, what is the punishment for a sinner? He said a person should do tshuva, and he should receive atonement. When they asked Teda, was durch them because through tshuva, even the Sholosh Klippas HaTmeis can undergo a bir. Why? Since all of it's from you. Even the Dvarim Marsurim, Kanal Azer Kim V'Chayis is from the Nitzutz Kedusha Shebahem, as we know that everything comes from Kedusha. But Zayzan in the Bibles for not Eibusher, and even Sholosh Klippas HaTmeis is also in the Bibles of Hashem. The Bibles that's mostly Sparach from the Gedonim from Helam V'Gili, and since Hashem is higher than any Helam and Revelations, and Uich the Nitzutz Kedusha, and Velcha the early keys, B'Tachas HaHelam, so everything, even the early key which is concealed, is one with Hashem. Von dort nimmt sich der König of Tshuva zum Mevar sein, Eich the Nitzutz or Zemayla Zan Kedusha. And from here, the power of Tshuva comes that can refine even these sparks and elevate them to holiness. Now, says, with Teda Eid, the Gilif von allen Jana Kedusha is durch Teda, Oich die, was mit Zad Aspen sein, is die Heche von Teda, werd Koich der Inyan Tshuva, Birer HaNitzutzis, Shabbat HaSurim, gesagt in the Sparsh durch Teda. Since the Torah is light, so the revelation of all manners of Kedusha comes through Torah, including even those entities that in their own right are lawful than Torah. Therefore, the concept of tshuva, the beer of sparks within forbidden objects, is stated explicitly in Torah. When in dem besteht der Chiluk zwischen die zwei Nisraels anal, in Maimer the Bisach matam kosev bebereishis, or matam basach bebereishis. And now we could appreciate the difference of the versions of when Rashi says, Rashi's lashon is not like the Medrash says why the Torah B'chlal wrote Bereishis. Rashi's lashon is matam pasach bebereishis, which means why did he open with Bereishis? If their bearer from Divrei Reshus is genug kosev bebereishis, which means that the bearer of Divrei Reshus is enough to write Bereishis on the Svert Geshtiben in Torah, which is enough that it's written in Torah. Alpha as the Aveda Hatayis and the Gabi der Aveda for Torah mitzvahs. Even though the Aveda of Kibush has a mile of Torah mitzvahs, Kanal Sevdalad, he double Torah on earth if they're Aveda. But Torah is Mechayiv the Torah wants you to do the Aveda of bearer. However, when it comes to refining the Dvarim Asurim, that's not al pi Seder HaTorah. Even if a person says, I'm going to sin, and then do tshuva, nevertheless, Tanya says that even though a person will say that I'll sin and do tshuva, he still commits a sin, and he'll be chayev for punishment in portions of blemishes caused. Why? Because the fact is that he causes blemishes. So therefore, that's why when it comes to the Taina and the Shivas Goyim, it has to state in the beginning of Torah, if the beer is von an Ort versus Hechaf in Torah, kommt es der Dibber in Torah Gufa al Tasfala Psichas Hadover. So, since the ability to engage in this type of beer comes from the place that transcends Torah, its placement there from the Torah itself is at the beginning and opening of the Torah. Why? Because the only way really to be mevar Sholosh Klubas Atmeis is you have to be at a level of higher than Torah. So if we would have been in the middle of Torah, so it's part of Torah, you won't really have the koyach to be mevar Sholosh Klubas Atmeis. But because it's at the beginning of the Torah, it's like saying in a way that once you're connected to that level, you're really a level higher than Hashem, higher than Torah, so that gives you the ability to be mevar. Okay, tomorrow we'll design. That's a show.